Welcome to the Behind the Bar podcast. Today we are joined by Steve Alton. Steve, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, hi, I'm Steve Alton. I'm the Chief Exec of the British Institute of Innkeeping.
For those that don't know, although everyone should know, what is the British Institute of Innkeeping?
So the British Institute of Innkeeping was formed 40 years ago, and it's a membership organisation for individuals in the licensed trade, the vast majority of which are licensees who run pubs across the whole of the UK. So we have 13,000 members, from free trade through to leases, through to traditionally tied tenancies, and some managed operators.
So we're here to talk today about Workforce, which is a new platform that we have launched alongside BII. So Workforce is aimed at the younger generation, trying to get the younger generation into pubs, making them realise how important that the industry is, that they can build careers in it, and there's so many opportunities in the industry. Why do we feel that now is the perfect time for Workforce?
Well, I think it's never been more important in terms of having a great experience at the pub. And as I said, great team members are integral to that. But also, I think we've undersold ourselves for absolutely years. The pub was seen as just the job you may do at college or in early years before you get your proper job, and that's a great frustration to brilliant entrepreneurs that we have running amazingly complex pub businesses. So we felt there was a need to really raise the profile of why pubs are an incredibly special place, but an incredibly vibrant career. So we felt there's a need to really change the whole narrative about pubs being an entrepreneurial sector and not being that last chance saloon as maybe they had been in the past, but also to put our arms around great talent as they come through the industry, because undoubtedly they will move from pub to pub or from business to business. That's an exciting dynamic in a sense of our industry, that you can keep progressing and moving to different types of businesses. But we wanted to give that continuity of support as they go through, so to really to support their career, keep them inspired, keep them informed, and keep them developing to their full potential within our sector.
Our industry does thrive on hearing from other people. We've spoken to a lot of people, and there's so many different stories out there that people haven't heard. I mean, for example, and I've spoken about this a lot, so everyone's probably pretty bored of hearing it. I started in a pub when I was 14, started making sandwiches on a Saturday for 3 hours a week, and then I eventually became assistant manager. And someone made quite a good point that you shouldn't necessarily look at it that way. It's where you can finish. So you could, instead of going, you could start at a bar, you could start behind the bar and you could become a general manager. You should start as you could be a general manager, and this is the path that you take. And I think we're really keen to talk about the pathways, the career developments that are available. We're working with people like HIT, AB, the Skills Network. There's so many teams that we have worked together with HJUK to provide this. And I guess, where did it all come from? Why do we feel that? I mean, this isn't really a question. I'm just whittering on. But why Workforce? Why is it a thing? Why are we making it a thing? Why are we hoping it works?
Well, I think there's two or three things that you mentioned. So one is about hearing from people that look and sound like the people we want to engage with. So we know that we've got some amazing, inspiring team members out there at all stages of their career. We see that through the amazing award platforms that the BII supports, and particularly our National Innovation in Training Awards. So we see young apprentices coming through that really flourish under that approach, and then progress rapidly through their business. So it is hearing from people on their own journey, and it's not always about what goes well. People have taken wrong turns, things have gone wrong, but there's as much learning in that and sharing that as there is the success stories. Equally, it needs to not come from people that look and sound like me. We talk a lot about, or have traditionally talked about, from bar to boardroom. I don't tend to like that. I think from entry level to entrepreneur is more reflective of what it's about. So you can come in at any level, and that could be entry level as a pot wash or making sandwiches on a Saturday, through to joining as a general manager. And we've got some great examples. So Sam Hagger, who runs an amazing multiple operator business up in Leicester, he's got individuals who started their careers with him, went to university, achieved some great degrees, but missed the dynamic nature of pubs and have come back into his business and are now leading some amazing businesses within his group. So it is about changing the narrative. It is about getting some of those amazing case studies out in the open to really help people with their decision making, so they don't fall down the same hole or make the same mistakes, or even turn away from opportunities that exist. So, to keep motivated around professional development, because there's so many pathways. It doesn't have to be about degree level. It doesn't have to be about an apprenticeship program. It can just be some really core skill-based development, making great cocktails, making great coffee, food skills, front of house skills, logistics behind the scenes, and how you buy products and how you make sure that your stock is reflective of what your customers actually need. So it's an incredibly dynamic sector, and unfortunately the old-fashioned view of it's about pulling a pint is long dead, and that's not going to sustain the business. When 1 in 3 visits to pubs now are no longer alcohol related, there's a huge opportunity. You've got to be so much to so many different people. So what an exciting place to work. Why would you want to work in something that was incredibly linear, quite controlled, quite hierarchical, quite corporate in nature? The beauty about our industry is it's dynamic. Every day will be incredibly different because you're dealing with customers and they're incredibly demanding, but you're also dealing with innovation in food and drink and service and competitive socializing and events and games at pubs and everything in between. And the great operators do all of that and give people a reason to come every day of the week, but there may be different customers at different times. So we just felt there was something missing. The up-and-coming team members really didn't have a membership organisation to support them. So we wanted to extend, our ability, our capability as a membership organisation, doing it for 40 years. So we know what works. We're never complacent. We're always asking our members, what next, so we can keep developing. But we felt there was something that needs to be developed that's tuned purely to support team members and their career and their success. And that's what Workforce is all about.
There's a huge stigma behind the pub industry. So when are you going to get a proper job? Why are you working in a bar? It's not going to go anywhere for you. Why do you think there is this stigma? And I know it has changed a lot in the last 5-10 years. People are seeing it more than just a job. And I think since COVID, it's probably grown a lot because the hospitality industry was relied on quite a lot. Everyone during COVID wanted to go out. They always wanted to be in pubs and stuff. That's one thing that lots of people missed. But why do you think there is that stigma behind the industry?
There's accessible jobs in every community. So you could walk in as a pot wash. I'm very proudly a father of 2 young men that are intrigued by pubs because they didn't have much of a choice because I drag them around most pubs around the UK. But they love to see great pubs, great service. They're intrigued by it, and it's led them to both actually move into their first jobs within hospitality. So my oldest son is now on his second job, working in a really dynamic, up-and-coming and growing pub business that's adding rooms, adding events on top of a great food and drink offer, and he's front of house and loving it. Comes back from his shifts inspired and energised. And my younger son is already seeking out and about to start his first kind of pot wash as a 14-year-old, and equally has had his head turned. And they both talked to me about hospitality degrees and what's it going to take to run their own business. So it is possible, but you have to pass what we've, again, in an old-fashioned way described as the mum and dad test, which is why is this a viable career versus becoming a doctor or a dentist or a lawyer, etc. But you look at, if this is about quality of life, it's about engagement, it's enjoyment, it's being in a dynamic environment, it's fulfillment, and also remuneration. We've talked, I think, traditionally about pubs being low pay. And maybe when you come at entry level, everybody starts somewhere, then they are entry levels of salaries. But you quickly can progress and quickly increase the amount that you take away. And progressive pub businesses now provide far much more than just tips and salary. A lot of them now have if it's employee schemes to look at additional benefits, health benefits. We've got our Licensee of the Year award winners who've built a gym within their pub because when their team are off shift, they want to keep fit and energised because they want fit and healthy, engaged, not overworked individuals. So I think there's a lot of work still to do, and we've got some brilliant ambassadors in the BII who go into schools and go and talk about why pub businesses provide a really exciting opportunity that is based upon professional development, and that's some of the messages that maybe we've said for a long time, but I think as you started out, it has to come from the individuals on their own journey.
Yeah. Do you think your boys would be in the industry if you weren't as involved in the industry? Do you think it's something they would have come across on their own, or?
In a sense, I would hope so. I mean, they're pretty gregarious now, going individuals, and I think that lends yourself to want to work in an environment where you meet lots of people, but probably not. I mean, they have been exposed probably at quite a high level to pubs and great conversations with amazing publicans, which I always take an opportunity to check in, see what's going on, how their businesses developing, the challenges they face, but also the opportunities. And they listen intently and tend to get increasingly involved with those conversations as well. So, but I think there's an opportunity at school level. We work with Skills and Education Group as a partner, and their membership network is further education colleges. And there's a huge opportunity to get to young people that have either stayed on in sixth form or gone to college to explain that it's not just about catering and chefing, which in itself is a fabulous career path, but pubs offer so much more than that. If it's front of house, back of house, managerial, logistics, these are complex, dynamic businesses. So we just need to get that point across. And unfortunately, I think some of the careers advice traditionally in schools has been quite linear and towards traditional career paths and not recognised what modern pubs stand for.
In my personal opinion, they help the person discover who they are. When you work in a pub, you come out your shell a bit more, your personality grows and you're allowed to showcase that. I think a lot of other positions, you're not necessarily, you're not given the platform to become who you are. And I'm referring back to your boys again. Have you seen like a difference in their attitude towards things, their confidence and things since they've worked in the pub?
Yeah, very much so. But my older boy had already trained kind of back of house and had moved very much predominantly to a front of house in this dynamic pub. He was already a relatively confident individual anyway, but he's come back and I've seen him because we are customers of that pub as well. So we've had the pleasure of him waiting on and looking after us. So
always fun.
Probably a tough gig for him, but actually he just loves it. He loves the interaction. You've got to have your wits about you because things go wrong, in pubs. Sometimes the wrong drink, the wrong food, something happens. So you've got to be aware, but you've got to have a genuine care and want to connect to people. And you talk about it's where you kind of find yourself in a sense, but there's an element about the skills you learn. I don't still think we've found the right words for it, but they are essential business skills. Yeah. So one, a really dynamic environment. How many places where you work, could things change every single day, almost on every dimension, not to the extent of a pub business. You're having to deal with customers who increasingly are, pretty demanding about their expectations. Pubs are not the same cost point as a supermarket, but they shouldn't be as well because they deliver so much more in terms of the experience, great atmosphere, etc. So there's a lot around the experience that you need to deliver, which is very, very different. But those skills then go into logistics. You've got to look at stocking. You've got to, a lot of progressive operators get their team members to lead initiatives. So it could be you're going to look after the drink section. So I want you to go and research what's up and coming. And we know at the moment low and no particularly is really getting ahead of steam, which is fantastic to see. And it's not all about non-drinking, or that's part of it, but it's about moderation. And sometimes people want to go out and feel connected socially, but don't want the level of alcohol that you traditionally have had. Yeah, for lots of reasons. It may be a work context, maybe that quite frankly they just wanted to have a night off or moderate a longer evening when they're out. So it's dynamic. Yes, it's connecting to people. Working as part of a team is key. Great pubs are joined up. You can see it. Everybody's got each other's back, and if somebody's got forgotten or missed, somebody steps up. We see that again with Joe and Flo at the Tolly. Everybody in their team, front of house and back of house, is cross-trained. So if the bar staff are down and there's a keg needs to be changed, that somebody can jump out of the kitchen and go and change the barrel. And likewise, if the kitchen is backing up, somebody can jump off the bar and get on the pass or get onto starters and help there. And how, again, fulfilling is that as a team, you deliver a great night where all your customers go away, again, writing online as they do, saying what an amazing experience. So it's more than, I think, just finding yourself, or that's part of it, but it is about these essential business skills.
There's lots of different areas of the hospitality industry that you can work in. It does not just behind the bar, it's not just in the kitchen. You can take those skills and you can work in events, you could work in HR. There's so many different sections of the sector that you can use those skills, but essential, like you said, they're essential business skills. They are skills that you take forward and you can put them into whatever you want to do with them. I feel like everyone should have that. They should work in hospitality at some point in their life, if not for the experience, to learn those skills. But I think it'd be funny. Have you worked in a pub before?
I have, yeah, extensively. So when I was growing up, so doing those kind of weekend jobs, and when I was at university, the landlord used to throw the keys out the window at me, and I used to open up and run the pub, and did that for a couple of years. And met some fabulous characters, like you'd never meet anywhere else. And that, that throwaway line about, the pub is probably the last place where you say hello to strangers is forever true because, and you see it in action when there's, maybe an older chap, and it's sort of stereotypical, we talk about that, but it could be anybody sat at the end of the bar on their own. And then suddenly they get joined up in a conversation with others, and it's in a very relaxed way, and you can see that they go away feeling better. And we talk about social isolation and loneliness. They're real issues, and they don't just affect the old generation. There's a lot of young people who are struggling in terms of where they fit, and actually pubs are in the main a very friendly, welcoming, accessible space. So. I've got extensive experience both sides of the bar, Jess, surprisingly. It looks like on my Instagram feed it's one area, but I can assure you I've been there. And I run a pop-up pub at my local village a few times a year. We don't have, unfortunately, a pub, and so we have a little village hall we transform, and pub nights are the most popular things that we do. And, I have my TENS licence, and I am the licensee for the night. I stand behind the bar very proudly, and you get to know everything about the village. And importantly, people come to you and ask you what's going on in the village, because that's what innkeepers used to be, when it was the place you used to go and find out.
They knew everyone, they knew everything that's going on. That's a proper community pub.
Yeah, and great pubs, continue to do that.
What is your favourite thing about pubs?
Oh.
If you had to pick one thing, I know you might quite like pubs, potentially.
I mean, the obvious thing is the beer or the individuals, but I think it's just the feeling you get when you go to a really good pub. It's warm, it's welcoming, you feel at ease straight away, and I think that's very special. I think those environments are unique in society. You don't get those in other places that people collect. They're quite transactional, and hospitality as a whole, again, it's nothing against restaurants, but restaurants, you go for a meal with your own group of friends. When you go to a pub, you may interact with lots of different people, and it's a very different kind of experience. And outside of the pub, where do people collect now? Village halls are less and less well attended. So if you look at, social gathering points, it's probably the last place in all communities where people can come together and feel welcome and walk in. And if you're on your own or with a group, it doesn't matter. Sometimes just while away some time, reflecting on life, reading a paper, watching some sport, it doesn't matter. But you feel connected in a way that you wouldn't do if you were sat at home.
So the Workforce platform is now available to anyone in the sector?
Yes, so it's available to all of our members and their team members. So we're already communicating with our members through regular communication, be it BII News or in Focus article, to encourage them to get their team members signed up as a Workforce member. It is free for them, but it will provide a huge amount of resources. And what we've done is we've collaborated with the very best across the sector, be that in professional development, in skills, in some great benefits specific to workforce, to insight, so they actually know what's really going on within the sector, what's hot, what's not, the kind of things that they can maybe get more involved with if it's developing drinks or trends or diversification of pubs. There's a whole rack of capability. So we'll be talking every couple of weeks with all Workforce members, keeping them up to date with everything that they need to support and inspire their career in the sector. On the website, there'll be lots of resources, and again, a lot of case studies from individuals that again look and sound like them and are either on the same path or been through the same path, and really connecting that community together. Be it, again, if it's a front of house community or a back of house community. So, and the platform will continually develop. One thing we will do, as we do with the BII, is check in with our members, see what's working, see where there's gaps, see where they want to hear more of something, and we'll keep building and developing. And we've got some brilliant ambassadors and mentors within the BII membership network that are really helping us make sure this content hits the mark and supports them, both in attracting great talent, but also developing the talent they've got and retaining it within the sector. We know we can't always necessarily retain it within the pub, but we're very keen to make sure that talent doesn't leave our sector, because we need great talent. The sector is somewhere that can grow rapidly, and right now it's very, very difficult to do that, but with great team members, that's entirely possible. So we need to make sure we've got the best talent possible.
And it's not just aimed at the people that are looking at getting into the pub career, is it?
No, very much so. It's for all team members. So that's at all levels, from entry level all the way through to the supervisory or the management roles. If I say front of house, back of house, or more kind of head office functions and logistics. So it's all tailored around supporting their career path, their full potential, and keeping them excited and inspired about the sector.
If you had to say the top 3 things that Workforce is offering, what would they be? We're offering a lot. I mean, there's a lot of sections to Workforce, and if you go on the website, you'll be able to see them. But
there is. If I had to say the top 3, I think feeling connected and being inspired about the sector is so important. You know, this is not just doing a shift in a pub. It's part of a much bigger sector, and I think getting people excited about that is so important, and important for the individual as well as the employers and the sector as a whole. I think secondly, their professional development and matching that with their career path, being a source of insight and support practically to help them make the right choices as they progress to get on the path that they wish to go and reach their full potential. That's what we're all about. We really want to inspire great careers. And lastly, bringing insight from the network. That's absolutely key. That's going to be behind all of our assets. So that voice of other Workforce members and what's worked for them and really made the difference, or a mistake they've made that they've learned enormously from, that can be shared to other individuals. So I think they're at the heart of the offer. But as you said, there's layers and layers and layers of support within what we've both built and will continue to build as we go forward. And in the BII, we're never complacent that we've cracked it. We're always asking, is that really hitting the mark? What are we missing? What else could we do to really push you to the next level? So there's going to be a lot of activity, but equally we want to be that accessible, plain language, straightforward, actionable insight and engagement. This is about real people talking to real people on their career journey.
One thing that has been questioned, or not questioned, is the platform is completely free.
Correct.
So why is it so important that we make this platform free? I mean, a lot of memberships you normally pay for, there's normally a sign-up fee or anything, but there's no cost at all to licensees or their teams, is there?
No, not at all. So, we're working with a number of supportive partners that allow us to provide this platform. The BII was founded 40 years ago as a charity. We're very clear. We're here to promote best practice and standards in our industry for the betterment of customers, that they can have these amazing experiences in these professionally run, safe, welcoming places. So it's really an extension of that. So we're very, very passionate about that. But also we want to get scale into this platform, because the more Workforce members, the more experience, the more insight that we can share across that community and across that network, and keep them excited about what the pub sector really is about, and the opportunities that presents.
Perfect. So to sign up for Workforce, you just visit www.biworkforce.org, fill out the form, sign up, and then you have access to all the different areas. There's a development area, careers area, there's how-to videos for front of house, back of house, mentor section. There's a huge amount of resources on there, and I think everyone in the industry should utilise it and have access to it. So for the podcast, we have a question to ask you on the spot, so no pressure. But what point in your career was that pivotal change that set you on your current path?
Good question. Probably 2. So when I was, I started in sales and commercial within a large corporate. And I'd done a degree, so I'd gone in as a graduate, but I had a thirst for learning. I still wanted to learn and develop, and I went on a very long journey doing an MBA, distance learning. And it wasn't just about what I learned on that, but it was the people I interacted with as I went, who were on a similar path, but very different. So in my course, I went away for kind of weekends, and I met army captains, I met head of logistics, I met people who ran charities, I met people that ran international businesses, and just interacting with other people it just got you out of your own environment and made you think a little bit different, and inspired you with lots of different kind of ideas. And also people will help as you develop your career. I was very fortunate to work for BT then. When I was doing my MBA, I called some very senior people and said, could you spare half an hour of your time? Because I'd love to get your perspective on the thing I was studying at that point. And people in the main say yes. and you get that time, and suddenly your world looks very different again, and you see it from a different perspective. So I think the pivotal point there in the learning was, as you begin to develop yourself and ask people around you for their support, 9 times out of 10 they'll always say yes, and people want to support you to progress. So that was probably one. I think secondly, probably a latter one, because my career hopefully isn't quite over at this point, is coming to the BII was a really important moment. It was literally a few weeks before the pandemic happened. So so on my tenure, unfortunately, the then Prime Minister announced all pubs were going to be closed, and we know the rest. But during that period, we had time to really make sure we were supporting our members every step of their incredibly difficult journey, but also to reflect on why we exist as the BII. And there's some great work by Simon Sinek around purpose and the why of organisations. And we spent a lot of time invested in exploring what it was, why did we exist? What would happen if the BII wasn't here? And that led an incredibly rich conversation and provided a level of engagement across both the senior team and the wider team that I don't think we've ever had before, and I don't think I've seen in other businesses. And it pretty highlighted the importance of people want to work for purposeful organisations that have a real reason to exist and make a real difference to people. And that is so important. And that was a real life lesson. So I'm never too old to learn, Jess.
Never too old. We never said you were old anyway. I like that answer. That's a good answer. You have to think of a question. Don't tell us now, but you have to think of a question for the next person. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Everyone needs to sign up for Workforce. Big push. Big push.